Hey everyone, today we are going to quickly go over RHINO rendering. It is a fairly simple task and I will take as less time as I can to go over it with you guys. First of all, you would open your RHINO file. I assume most of you have all of your stuff layered pretty well. I personally suggest that each of you layer your model based off of the materials that you are going to use. That will help a lot. It'll be very convenient, and it's good to have digital hygiene. Next up, we are going to go over the rendering settings. So it should be in your properties window on the right side. If you don't have it, you can go up here to your render tab, pull down all the way to the render properties. Now, in your render properties, there are a few things that you can adjust and you can dive deep into on your own. I'll go over the very basic ones. First of all, you have your resolution and quality. I personally like to use whatever is maximum because, renderings are always best if you have the biggest file. Next, you have your DPI. Normally, I'd set it at 300. And then the quality will be based off of how quickly or how final your final product is going to be. So if you're going to do like a quick draft or a quick rendering just to get a good view about it, choose either of these two, or just if you're ready to render, then you choose your final quality. And then in your backdrop is when you render, the background will change based off of whatever your preference is. The presets are a solid color. It's in white. If you choose this bar, you get to choose the color of whatever you want the backdrop to be. Or if today you want to work with a PNG, which is easier to Photoshop in, all you have to do is check this transparent background, and your renders will be in PNG or transparent background. Everything else is a preset. If you have any interest, you can dive deep on your own. Normally, I would just leave them as they are because it's easier to render with. And that's pretty much it for rendering settings. Now we are going to jump into materials. In your materials tab, it should be on your window as well. If you don't, all you have to do is type in materials in your command bar and it'll show up and you can drag it. Mine's already here. You can drag it to your properties window on the right. Now see, we don't have any materials yet shown because RHINO doesn't create materials on its own. You have to add them. So in order for us to get a better view of the model, you go here in your down key, your down arrow, and you would choose rendered mode. Now because it's a preset, all of the textures are white, and that's the preset. Next thing we're going to do is add new materials. Here you'd have your add material icon, press that, and my first material is plaster. We are going to create a generic. So everything here is generic. You can adjust it based off of your own preference in a moment. I will show you. So I'm going to use plaster. Now, under here are your properties to adjust the material. It's very basic, so you don't really need to do much unless you have a very, very specified preference that you want to play with. But here, you can change your color. I'm leaning towards a light gray, and that's pretty much it. If you want to be more specific about your material and change it more drastically, you would click on the icon and do import from material library. Now RHINO has a huge library of materials that you can play around with. Uh, let's say plaster, then you can basically these are all specific textures and materials that RHINO has in its own library. You can play around with these as well. So once you open it, it's pretty much the same actually because plaster is plaster. Now if you want to get rid of a material, you would right click and delete. Now my next material is metal. I'm going to add a metal texture right here. And when you choose the color for metals, they have a preset of colors that you can choose from. I'm going to use stainless steel. Press OK. And down here, here's another thing that you can adjust. Every material has its own characteristics that you can play around with. And this little icon will kind of show you what it looks like. But once we apply it to the model, you can always come back and adjust it. So right now, let's just adjust it a little bit. Now my next texture would be wood. I would come here, import from library because there's no wood for me to choose from. Here in my wood folder, I'm leaning towards choosing oak. I want a light oak. And same thing here, you can adjust its characteristics right here. So everything here is preset at 0. And today, if I wanted to change the size of the texture, I will show you once I apply it to the model. If you want it to be bigger or smaller, here is the size change that you can apply it to. And now my final material would be glass. I would come here. Here there's glass. I would select that. And you can choose any color or a kind of tint that you want your glass to be. I personally like to use turquoise. And then here, your clarity, you can adjust it accordingly based off of however you like it. It won't show as much as here. It'll show a lot in the model. Now our next move is to apply these materials to the model. In your layers tab, because I sorted everything out earlier, now I can automatically select them all at once. So you go to your layer, right click, and select objects. Now all of my objects that are on that layer are selected. You would then go to your properties tab, and normally you would see the basic information, but right next to it there is a material icon. You would choose that, and then you would then drag this window down and you would apply that specific material to that layer. Well, this is my plaster layer, so I'm going to choose plaster. And now, as you can see, there's a subtle gray different from the preset material. And I will continue to do the same thing for every model. Select objects, properties, drag down metal. Now these are changed to metal. And here, wood, select objects, properties, material layer, oak. And then my final one would be glass, select objects, change this to glass, and now everything is changed accordingly, and this is what RHINO sees. Now today, if you wanted to import your own material, you can do it as well. Go here to create new material, you would choose on custom. Let's say I wanted a cotton candy facade. Choose that. And then after you create your material name, you come down here to this color box, click to assign texture. You would then apply whatever texture you have. Now today I want to research a cotton candy texture. Images. This, I like it, it's nice and pretty. Save. And here I would import it off of my desktop. And now it has been created. If you want to change the size and the scale of it, you would click on the name, come down here, and you can adjust it accordingly. Now I will go to my layers of whatever layer I wanted to change it to, select my objects, go to properties, material, cotton candy, and there you go. You can import any image that you want. I would recommend you do a high resolution so you can adjust it from big to small. Next thing we are going to do is to render, uh, or no, we're actually going to create a view. To understand views, first things first, you need to understand where RHINO captures the image. So you would go to your Properties tab right here, and right next to it, there's this thing called Save Frame. If you turn Save Frame on, this box is going to show you how RHINO sees and what it will capture when it renders. So turn that on if you want to know where it is. It's very helpful. All you have to do is turn it off if you don't want to see it. And the next thing we're going to do is to create a view, a save view, where you can always come back to this particular view if you ever get lost or lose this scene that you really like. So you come down to set view, named views, and right here, whatever you have right now, you can automatically save it. And I'm going to say there's my render view. And then that's it. Now, no matter how much I rotate it, all I have to do is click under here, go to set view, and choose that view that I just saved earlier, and it'll automatically go back. Personally, I like to use 2-point perspective because it makes everything more orthogonal and it's much more pretty. Now I would save this view again. Same thing, you can replace it, and all you have to do now is type render, and your image will render. Now, because of the DPI and the quality that I selected earlier, it is going to take a while. If today you don't have the time and you want to do like a quick rendering, I would suggest you to first of all turn off your save frame, and then there is this command called view capture to file. It's up here. It directly takes whatever RHINO sees right here and saves it onto your desktop. Now here it's the same thing. You have your resolution. You get to choose these options, whether you want them to be shown onto this image that you're going to export. I normally just tick it all off because it's a rendering image. And then press OK. You can save it onto your desktop. I'm going to name it tutorial. Save. And here is your final image. Now, personally, I would take the time to do a very detailed rendering, but if it's something quick, I would use that command